Hey folks, welcome back for part two of this week's Fantasy League podcast with Jerry and CT. Um, hey Jerry, how are you?
I'm doing well. Let's go over the
Good.
matchups. I'm excited for week two,
Yep.
especially after a loss. I need a win.
Well, good luck this week. And just as a recap, we in part one we went over we kind of made the on the fly decision to do the post matchups. This part we're looking at this current week's matchups and giving a previews and talking about who we think is going to win and lose and who's going to end up with the woke note. With that, we need to give do we need a quick word from our sponsor?
You want me to do the sponsor again?
Let's do the sponsor again. Let's hear it.
Right. And here's a word from our sponsor. After a long, hard day of losing in fantasy football, you can relax with a nice glass of the finest whiskey in all the land. Whiskey that is synonymous with consolation and aged in barrels for over 7 years. Why 7 years? Because that's how often you'll have a winning season. So if everyone celebrates your wins, like when the high school equipment manager makes a three-pointer, then you need to drink the smooth whiskey of Athens, Tennessee, or as we like to call it, Whoa. Whoa whiskey. Suck it down because you suck.
Awesome. Nels was the woke note recipient last week. So, all right, let's go on to this week, Jerry. We pull the matchups up here for week two, and
Nice.
we'll go bottom up this time. So the first matchup we've got here is Taylor versus Wes, and they didn't have anyone go in the Thursday night games last night, but Yahoo's got projections of 1 point game projected going Taylor's way. What are you seeing here?
Just looking at the left, you got to love Metcalf versus Tennessee's weak secondary. And I don't know how Las Vegas defense is going to be. I don't think they're going to be great. Williams splitting time with Gordon, but that should be a great matchup. Ertz may be out, so Goddard may get a lot of the timeshare. Then Carson versus Tennessee. I feel like West got some favorable matchups. Jackson versus Mahomes is going to be great TV, so I think West will probably be tuned to that game. Prescott, Diggs. I think Dak is going to put up great numbers every week because Dallas's defense sucks. I don't know about Jacobs. I heard he kind of got lucky with the touchdowns. Like he came out almost every other play just because his toe hurt so bad. So, and against Pittsburgh, I feel like he should maybe put someone else in his flex, but that's not that. I mean, Chubb should go off against Houston. What are you seeing?
Well, first I want to ask. So is it Goddard?
I don't know.
Because
I'm not an English major. I just call him how I see him. Goddard.
I always call him Joe Dirt because it looks like it's Go Dirt. So it's just my observation. Yeah, I mean, I think overall here, I like the matchups for West more. I think the Kansas City Baltimore game can be a real shootout because KC has one of those bend but don't break defenses, and then Baltimore's defense has lost Marcus Peters, and they got into a shootout last week really with the Raiders. Metcalf, Claypool. I mean, Dalvin Cook. Arizona's a tough defense though, so I could see Cook having another one of those like 20 carries for 70-yard type games.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it really, if you look at the other side, Prescott. I like the matchup slightly more for Lamar versus Prescott here.
I do too.
And then Chase has I think a tough matchup against Chicago. Diggs, I think, has a tough matchup against Miami. It's to me really going to come down to how high did Prescott and Chubb fly in their two matchups, and is that going to be enough to offset, Lamar, DK, Claypool, and whatever Dalvin does? So I'm going Wes here.
Yeah, I would have to lean West. I don't love the Cincinnati defense. I think I think their corners have big trouble, and Allen Robinson and Mooney will kind of tear them up. I think he should probably maybe try and find another defense if he can, but I know defense doesn't make the matchup, so I would still probably lean Wes in this one.
Yep. I will say that Taylor does have, he could put Ayuk in his slot, in his flex spot instead of Jacobs if Jacobs is hurt.
He didn't have any other options, and that's not a great option either. Who knows what Ayuk's going to do with what Shanahan has said?
Right.
I feel like Wes has way better options on his bench with Davis and Smith-Schuster. Actually, Davis has a terrible matchup this week, but Juju on your bench, that's
Carson should
not
do
a bad
pretty
problem to have.
Against Tennessee. Carson's got a good matchup too. So yeah, I
think Penny's still hurt, right? So Carson's still got to be the bell cow. That's awesome news for Wes.
I think just too many good matchups for Wes. I think he's going to win by 10 or 15 points this week. So.
Cool. I was going to say 8 or 9, but yeah, that works.
All right. So we agree on Wes. Let's go to the next one, which is Scales versus Jerry.
Jerry had a little lamb.
Jerry, you got the best team name this year. I can't.
That was because of you. That you came up with that. That was great.
I got lucky on that one. All right. So since this is your matchup, I'll give you my rundown first, and then I'll let you chime in.
Go ahead.
So Scales, let's see here. Cousins against Arizona. I'm not a Captain Kirk believer. And Arizona could be in the backfield all day against him. I could see him getting pressured and having one of those, 3-point games. Which could affect Jefferson. He's kind of got the stack there. But I do like Moore against New Orleans. I think Moore, if Lattimore is out, I think he was kind of banged up last week. He could. Kamara, New Orleans did a lot better than I expected, so we'll see what Kamara does. Monty's got a decent matchup against Cincy, Hawkinson. I think Green Bay's going to jump on Detroit here after last week. It's going to be kind of a show-me game, and so I can see them throwing a ton and Hawkinson having a big second half. And then Indy's got a good defense, but Henderson's the bell cow for now, so he's got some decent matchups. But I just think between Rodgers, I think Lamb, Lockett, Henry against Seattle. I don't know how Seattle's run defense is. But I can I'm going to go with you here, Jerry. I think you've got. I know you didn't have a huge game from the Washington D last night, but
not at all.
I gotta go with you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to be worse, me trying to drink some Bryson's RJ right now, or just how Scales is in general with his reverse jinxing. This is going to create some type of, like nuclear fusion or something. I kind of, just looking at his team, besides, I don't think Cousins has a good matchup against Arizona, but Chandler Jones played the game of his life. I don't really expect that again. And I think a lot of I think they're missing some key defensive players. So maybe Arizona puts up 30 on them, and then Minnesota has to catch up. So I think that actually works in his favor. Lattimore was a great tidbit by you. I forgot about that. So Moore could have a big game. Kamara. Montgomery is exceeding my expectations. Got a great matchup with Cincy, like you said. Hawkinson, I feel like is really the only target on Detroit. And then Henderson seems to be the guy, even though they're kind of a pass-first offense in the Rams. So I think I could have bigger numbers from Rodgers and Lamb and Lockett. Like those three could have huge numbers, but the rest aren't going to be able to keep up with how I think solid his team's going to be. So I would probably lean Scales in this one, especially when I thought Washington was going to get at least like 5 or 6 sacks and a pick, and they did nothing. So
yeah,
I'm not really going to lean on them anymore this season, I don't think.
I'll be really interested to see how the Atlanta offense looks. I know Tampa Bay's got a good pass rush, but their secondary is otherwise somewhat suspect. And so, I mean, Dallas was able to put up a lot of points on them and throw for a lot of yards. I'll be interested to see if Matt Ryan has similar success and if Ridley has a bounce back game after kind of.
They did lose that Bunting guy and TB's backfield who like had a huge run in the playoffs. Like you said, Dak did put up good numbers. I don't think Matty Ice has it anymore, and I don't think the Atlanta line is as good as the Cowboys line when healthy. So
yeah,
I really expect Atlanta to struggle. Huh?
They weren't healthy last week, and they still. I mean, I think Martin was out, so
they did have Martin out, but I really expect Atlanta to absolutely struggle again. They got a new coach going to Tampa Bay with that line of JPP and Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea. I mean, it's unreal. I'm not expecting much out of Ridley.
Yeah.
Like I think that 11 points is high. Like I'm probably expecting like 7 or 8 from him.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we'll see. We shall see. I'm taking you. You're taking Scales.
I would probably lean Scales on that one.
Okay. All right, well, next we've got Shmee versus Nels. And Shmee already had McLaurin put up a 20 spot last night, which is pretty good for a receiver, whereas Nels got a solid 4 points from his tight end. I'm going to have to, think that 105 sounds a little high for me. I mean, I know Adams is in a smash spot against Detroit, and Okudah, their top cornerback, is out injured.
Yep.
Keenan Allen is in a smash spot against Dallas. Harris may even be against the Jets. Evans is against Atlanta, although there's a lot of mouths to feed in Tampa Bay's offense. So good matchups for Nels. Over here on the other side, Tannehill against Seattle, I could see them having a bounce back game, and I could see that being real high scoring. Cup is solid. Eckler is in a big spot against Dallas. Harris is in a big spot against Vegas. I think there's just more good matchups on Shmee's side. I like him to win by about 6 points. What do you think?
I think it's gonna be really close. I maybe put Shmee like 2 or 3 points. I don't love Tannehill on the road at Seattle. Their first home game is gonna be so loud. I don't like Tennessee in that spot, and then Winston, what he did, I know he was extremely efficient, but I like that a lot more over Tannehill. On paper, I like Nels's team. Even Tampa Bay probably going to put up a ton against Matty Ice and that Atlanta line. So I think it's going to be closer than what people think. I mean, I think Shmee getting 20 from McLaurin was huge. McLaurin looks like an absolute stud. I mean, Heineke throwing it to him. You would think his production would go down after losing Fitzpatrick, but he's just such a baller. Even against, I think the matchup he had all night was Bradbury, and he still dominated.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one's going to be really close. I'm kind of excited for this matchup to see how this turns out. The only weak link on Shmee's team is Tannehill, and in a hostile environment in Seattle, in a big QB league, 6 points per touchdown. I feel like that's his only weak link, but we'll see how the others, if the others can support him. So,
yeah, I think you have good points all around. I think this matchup's really going to come down to which quarterback scores more points, and whoever does that, I think they'll end up winning. If Winston has another big game against Carolina, I can see Nelson pulling it off. If Tannehill has a decent game, I can see Shmee winning. So we'll see. Will Shmee? I'm taking Shmee. Are you taking Nelson?
I'm gonna take Shmee, and this is unfair just because McLaurin got off to such a great start. If we had done this on Thursday, I probably would have leaned Nels, but I think he got out to a good enough start that Shmi keeps it.
Yeah. All right. Well, next we'll check out RO versus CB. And Yahoo projects RO to win by 10 so far. CB got a 9 spot from Shepard last night, so he continues to exceed my expectations. He's getting a lot of volume.
Dang, 6 points from a bonus. That stinks.
Yep. But
or 6 yards, 6 points. What are we playing, basketball?
Yeah.
Idiot.
But let's so I'll let you. Why don't you go ahead and go first on this one? I went last one.
Yeah. Man, I think Pitts is gonna be a stud. He's just still, like, it was only his first game last week, but this is a really tough matchup against Tampa Bay. He's got to get Ronald Jones out of there. I don't actually, against Atlanta, it could be a lot of running, but still, I don't like them this year. Jones and Fournette are going to be splitting a bunch of the carries, but Hopkins, Woods, Elliott, and Allen, that's looking great. Plus Denver defense against Trevor Lawrence, that's a great matchup too. Brady and Godwin, I mean, that's the double points. I feel like he's going to live or die by that this week. Going with 2 tight ends set. What is he? He's going with 12 formation. May have been frozen there for a second.
No, you're good.
Anyway, he's going to live and die by the Brady-Godwin connection. He's playing 2 tight ends. I'm not very high on Mitchell because we have no idea what Shanahan's going to do. Philly, I seem to keep the Atlanta running game in check last week, so I would probably Tampa Bay against Atlanta, though. I feel like they're going to crush them. Damn, this is a tough matchup. Who are you leaning?
Well, I'm going to highlight the Tampa Bay stack here against Atlanta.
And Gronk, he's got 3 of the huge weapons.
And then and then you didn't mention it, but I do like Deontay against Las Vegas. And he's Roethlisberger's top target in terms of targets, and so I wouldn't be surprised if he had 12 targets and caught 8 or 9 of them for 120 and a touchdown. Taylor against the Rams, I feel like the Rams have a pretty good defense, but Taylor's going to get volume. Mitchell, to your point, I think you've got a West Coast team traveling to the East Coast to play in the noon slot, so I think Philly is going to be upset special here this week.
Mm-hmm.
But
point.
I think Mitchell, Shanahan likes to go with the hot hand, and so he's going to stick with Mitchell until Mitchell has a bad game. And I think so. I won't be surprised to see Mitchell get 10 to 15 carries and put up some numbers. It just depends how. I think if Philly jumps on San Fran early, they might abandon the running game. So we'll see. I do like the double tight end stack here, just because Gronk's got a good matchup and looked like vintage Gronk, and Kelsey's Kelsey. Let's see, what other options does he have? He could go with Boyd against Chicago or Myers against the Jets. I can't fault him for making this decision given the other options he has. Over on CB's side, you highlighted Allen, Hopkins, Woods and Elliott. Plus, plus Pitts against Tampa Bay. His matchups are mediocre in my opinion, and so he's got good players, big names. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to pull off the win. But I just think the Tampa Bay against Atlanta game is going to determine the outcome here, and I'm expecting RO to win by 10 or so points with the Tampa Bay stack.
If Tampa Bay was like at Denver or something, or at Pittsburgh, I would probably say this would be extremely close, maybe lean CB, but Tampa Bay hosting Atlanta and Tom Brady's competitiveness, they're going to try and absolutely kill their division opponent, and I expect them to have a great game. So yeah, I'd lean RO on this one. Right. He'll start the season 2-0. That'll be great. He'll be happy with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, so next we've got Jack versus Mays.
Two opposite ends of the all-time spectrum, huh?
Near opposite ends, yes. And but this year the roles are reversed. So, we get the benefit of hindsight right now, and Jack did not have big games from his running backs, and so it's tough to only get 12 points from your RB1 and RB2, but that's what Jack is.
Right.
I don't, what else are you seeing here, Jerry?
I like Robinson against Cincinnati's corners. I don't think Samuel puts up the same numbers as last week. I think he'll have a decent game because I expect that game to be really close. So even if those guys hadn't gotten 6 points, I still don't like Barkley coming back from injury, or Gibson is still kind of learning the position and not a surefire first, RB1. So I think he was kind of behind the 8 ball to start. And I like Herbert, but Wilson and McCaffrey and Waller and even Landry against Houston, I think Mays is going to win this one pretty easy.
Yeah. Well, so I think for Jack to win this one, I think there are a lot of things that have to go right. The Charger-Dallas game needs to be a shootout.
Which it very well could be.
Yes, and that's likely. But Robinson needs to have a big game. Samuel needs to have a big game. Andrews and Swift need to have big games. Green Bay needs, basically Swift needs to get a whole lot of receptions playing catch-up mode against Green Bay. Whereas I feel like the floor is the floor for Mays' team feels like the ceiling for Jack's team on this one. Russell Wilson's got a great matchup. The Tennessee receivers might be playing catch-up ball game and get a lot of targets. McCaffrey.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, he's got perfect game script for those two. Wilson to bomb it over Tennessee's awful defense, and then Tennessee trying to play catch-up with throwing the ball late. So.
Yep.
And I have Derrick Henry, who, opposite game script, so that's probably going to be a loss. For your shootout, CT, looks like the Cowboys Chargers is the highest over under of the week at 55, and then Seattle and Titans is the second with 54. Okay. Chiefs Raven is 54.5. So all three of those games, pretty high totals.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll see just a lot of these four guys here, I think will have the potential to outscore Jack's team by themselves. And then we haven't even talked about Waller, who is game script could favor him getting a ton of targets as well, especially with them, again, West Coast team going to play in the noon slot on the East Coast. I could see Pittsburgh just jumping way ahead and then them Carr throwing the ball 40 or 50 times and Waller getting 20 targets again. So,
do you think it's weird that he has Brown and Jones?
No,
I feel like he should try and maybe get rid of one of them and diversify a little.
I think there's enough passing to go around in Tennessee's offense that it can support two years.
They don't throw it that much, or at least they didn't last year. I think they got a new OC, but
yeah,
it's not like Dallas where they're going to throw it 50 times a game. I mean, this is Tennessee.
Well, with Tennessee, last year they supported two fantasy relevant receivers, and plus they had Johnny Smith at tight end. Corey Davis, did he have 1,000 yards or close to it? I think he was
he killed it, yeah,
2 or 3. They've got more. I think Jones is more talented than Davis, although he's older. And they've lost the tight end who soaked up a ton of targets, and so I think there's certainly enough passes to have two fantasy relevant receivers in Tennessee. In Dallas, the question is, do they have enough to have 3 fantasy relevant receivers? People were talking about Gallup the same way they were talking about Corey Davis last year, which is, can he put up 1,000 yards as the third receiver? Everyone's asking the same question about Davis as a second receiver. So
I think he could. Gallup's out for like 5 weeks though, right?
Right. I'm just using that as an example.
Okay.
I think I'm not for Mays. I'm not worried about the Tennessee stack because it's the top two receiving options. Whereas like if Jones were the wide receiver 3 in Tennessee, then I'd be more concerned. But I think Tennessee is going to be their defense is bad. I think they're going to be playing catch up a lot this year. I think that they're going to manage Henry's workload a lot this year. And they strike me as a team that's going to win 6 or 7 games and having to be throwing the ball more than they want to. And so we'll see. I'm going Mays in this one.
I guess Chester Rogers led the Titans in receiving week 1.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen too many more times.
Arizona was, I don't know. I'm not a big Tannehill fan. I think he's a great game manager, but he threw it 35 times and they were like down that whole game. That's still not a lot.
The 35's a lot.
Well, I guess. For being completely behind, I don't know. I hope they don't abandon the run game because I have Henry, so it benefits me if they're a balanced offense. I just always think it's weird when I see teams with the 1 and 2 receivers on the same team. I feel like you're going to live and die by that team then.
You are, but they've been a high scoring offense the last, few years. And so hasn't been, if you had Brown and Henry last year, you had a pretty good team.
Mm-hmm.
And you got 2 players from the same offense.
I had Brown last year.
Yeah.
You hit him on a slant and he's gone. That's how fast he is.
Oh yeah. I remember that play too. That was 75 yards or something like that. So, all right, I think it sounds like we're both going Mays in this one. It's going to take everything going right for Jack and everything going wrong for Mays for that to happen. So
to make Jack feel better, though, I probably still would have picked Mays even if we had done this on Thursday.
Yeah,
that wouldn't make him feel better. Never mind.
Yep. All right, so we'll go to the last matchup of the week, and I think this is going to be a really close one, which is, Bryson against me. Jerry, take this one away.
All righty. He put in Parker because Will Fuller's going to be out. I think that could be. Hang on. My internet's going out.
Oh, are you there?
All right. Am I back? I think I'm back. All right. Devontae Parker with Fuller out is going to be a good receiver. Thielen, Murray. Minnesota's going to miss some defensive players on a lot of people's book. Murray is QB1, even though Rodgers has a great matchup with Detroit. I think a lot of people are thinking Murray could be QB1. He needs Jones to bounce back. They completely abandoned the run game, and I think that's why the Saints just settled for pass because they're like, hey, we want you to run, and they never did. So Green Bay played right into the Saints. What is his name? I think his name's Dennis Allen is the defensive coordinator, just like played right into their strategy, and they had such a bad game. So hopefully they don't abandon that. Mixon's okay, not a great matchup against Chicago. Kittle had like a down game and he still had like 70 yards. So he's a baller. Hopefully he can go off against Philly. Love Hunt and the flex. Chubb is going to get his touches, but then this game should be out of hand and they're going to just keep running the ball, and Hunt plays on a lot of passing downs. I think that's a great flex option. Picked up New Orleans defense, I'm assuming, because of how great of a game they had, and hopefully they can. I think one of their big guys is out though, the Davenport. I think one of their edge rushers that really disrupted Green Bay is out, so maybe they're not as effective. But it's Sam Darnold, so that could be a good matchup. Mahomes and Hill is such a dynamic duo. He just throws it up and he magically catches it. Antonio Brown is an absolute steal in the draft. I think Brady is working on a great core with him. I wasn't very high on Amari Cooper because he always plays on the outside, and I feel like Dak just loves to throw it over the middle to CD, but he's given he gave Amari so many targets. I think he does a lot of back shoulder throws and comeback routes that Amari is so good at running the routes that Amari is still a great, relevant receiver on a very pass happy team. So um, Cleveland defense, I'm still not sold on Cleveland defense, even though they have a great front four. I think it's maybe kind of like Washington. The front four has great names with Clowney and Garrett, and I forget their interior guys, but they do have Newsome and what's the guy's name? There was their first round pick with Baker. Forgot his name. Anyway, he's another corner, but I still feel like Houston will put up some points. No offense.
Yeah, no, I think you make some good points. I mean, so I'll look at Bryson's matchups first. I think Kyler is Kyler, and it could be a quarterback shootout here between Mahomes and Kyler. Thielen, I feel like, is just a consistent producer, and so my hope is that he stays out of the end zone, even if he has, some yardage. To your point, Fuller's out, so game script will certainly be leaning Parker's way to see a lot of targets. I think Jones is in a smash spot against Detroit, and I think he had some big games against Detroit last year too. And Green Bay again is just, no one believes in them after. I feel like the discourse has been so negative towards Green Bay after last week, and I'm hopeful, or I think that they're going to come out and kind of prove everyone wrong, whether or not it's one of those big Rodgers Adams games or it's a big Jones game, or maybe both.
Hope so.
Yeah. To your point, Mixon is in a tough matchup against Chicago, but he's going to get a lot of volume. So I could see him having one of those, like 12-point games where he has 80 rushing yards and 40 receiving yards.
Real quick, I think Bernard leaving really helps Mixon. I don't even know who the backup is in Cincinnati, and I feel like Mixon's a bell cow, and that's the scarcest position in fantasy right now is a bell cow running back. I feel like he's got two of them.
So the backup in Cincy is Samaje Perine.
Oh yeah, I feel like all the teams have given up on him. He's been kind of passed around.
Yeah. But then continue to go down. Kittle has, on paper, I think, a good matchup against Philly. Although, the way I'm thinking about this, I think game script is going to favor Kittle getting a lot of targets because I'm kind of expecting Philly to win the game. But then, Hunt, to your point, they could blow Houston out if Houston's as bad as everyone thought they were going to be. And so he could end up just kind of running away with the game in the second half. Hunt could. And so Bryson, I think, has just solid matchups all around. I will say I'll add on New Orleans. I think Lattimore, their top cornerback, is hurt or he's dealing with an ailment. And so they might be without him. I need to double check on that. But if they are, that would elevate Darnold's status, and as well as like DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall and Robbie Anderson. So I can see it being a little higher scoring, but New Orleans has a pretty good defense, though.
Yeah, according to ESPN, it says Saints Lattimore a game time call, so maybe he's not out.
Yeah, well, and if he plays hurt, maybe that's more detrimental. So I don't know. We'll see. On my side,
yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jerry.
No, just I guess he's it's COVID related.
Oh,
it says he's a game time decision. This was as of 12/13, so
interesting. Okay, all right. But so Bryson, I think, has some good matchups, especially the Jones matchup. And so, I mean, on my end, I think Mahomes has a good matchup and kind of cancels out Kyler. Cooper against the Chargers, that could be a shootout. And I feel like Dak and Cooper have this mind meld deal going on. Yeah. Cooper was crushing it before Dak got hurt last year too. And so I just hope he stays healthy.
I think he will.
Antonio Brown had big games against Atlanta last year. And so I'm hopeful that, I'm hoping he plays more snaps because he only played like 60% of the snaps last week. He still had like a 20% target share, and so hopefully he plays more snaps and he gets more targets, and at least from my perspective. My running backs are my weak spot here. And Sanders is in a tough matchup against San Francisco. Plus, he's got Gainwell, who's going to steal some carries. And then Gordon is in a timeshare. I'm just hoping to get, 6 or 7 points from each of those guys instead of zeros. If I can do that, and then, Mahomes to Hill can get a touchdown or two, but, and Cooper or Brown can have a big game. I think I can stay in it. Fant's got a good matchup at Jacksonville, and they're without Judy, so I can see him getting 10 targets in this game. And I'm hopeful that the Cleveland defense has a big game against Houston after letting the Chiefs back in the game last week. So we'll see.
Looking it up real quick. Andrew Jones has played 6 games against Detroit. He averages 72.7 yards per game rushing and 24.7 yards per receiving. So there's like 100 yards right there. He's only had 3 touchdowns in 6 games against them.
Oh, that's good.
That's a little lower than I thought, but I hate to say it with the running backs. I'm kind of with Minnesota banged up and the running backs. I'm kind of leaning Bryson in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I think
but very close.
I think it's one of those deals where it's like the Mahomes Hill effect. Is that enough to if they do what they did last week and put up 70 combined points? Then I don't need a whole lot else from the rest of the squad to kind of be competitive. But I think Bryson's also in a week where he could score 120, 115 points again. And so I'm going to need everyone to have big games in order to be competitive. So
how torn on you each week when you're watching the Chiefs on CEH? Like you've got to be so torn when he scores or gets a ton of touches.
We're a pass first offense, so I'm not too torn. I'm a Chiefs fan first and foremost, and so I want them to win. So I do wish he was on my team. Maybe I can convince Nelson does need a quarterback, so maybe I can somehow swing a trade for Clyde and just add another Chief to my 5 that I already have.
What would you rather have? The Chiefs win the Super Bowl and you finish dead last in this fantasy league, or you win this fantasy league by blowing out everyone and the Chiefs go 1-15?
Chiefs win the Super Bowl, hands down.
I'm the opposite way. I would as long as I won this.
And I'll show you why, Jerry. Am I on screen still? I think you're leaning Bryson. I'm leaning, I think that I can win, but I think it's going to be close. But let me show you why I'm leaning Chiefs here. Where's mine?
Because you're Mahomes cards.
Do you see my Mahomes Magic Crunch cereal?
No, you're not. You're sharing your screen, not the video.
Well, then let me stop sharing it. I'm going to share my video here.
Yeah, you don't have your video on.
Well, now I'm going to turn my video back on. Hold on a second. I'm going to figure this technology thing out eventually. Sorry, I'm such a boomer. All right, do you see this?
So old.
You see this? This is Mahomes Magic Crunch right here, okay? I'm feeling crunchy today. I've got my Chiefs shirt on for Reds Friday.
Oh, that is nice.
So, sorry if it's hurting your eyes.
I have my Thunder shirt on because they're a great team now.
You've got your Thunder shirt on, and let me get the family out. Let me get the family out to celebrate today. Hold on a second here. Okay. I'm coming back, I promise. I just have to set something aside.
Yeah, I'm sure all our fans love watching just your computer chair just sit there.
Oh, they're gonna love that. So, but
7 of them.
I've got to get some things out here. Okay, we're gonna go with the family. So we've got the Mahomes on the horizon. We've got the white sparkle Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting better. Here come the rated rookies.
Jeez.
Here comes the select field level.
So that's why you wanted to win?
Last but not least, we've got the autograph. Signed Mahomes card. So anyways, I'm vested. I got a vested interest in Mahomes. I'm seeing what else I have in here. Nothing Mahomes. So That's my family of Mahomes rookies. I've gotten rid of everything else so that I can kept to these.
I'd rather win the fantasy, even if I had a signed Ricky Baker card.
Well, Jerry, once you've won 4 times, you might think
It's old.
No, it never gets old. It's always fantasy. I don't get jazzed up for stuff much more than I do for fantasy, but the Chiefs are. I've been a fan of them for so long and been so invested in it that I want them to. I'd prefer them to win. I'd take a year or 2 of sucking in fantasy for a Chiefs Super Bowl, hands down.
Well, that means the Browns are going to win soon because I've sucked the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well.
So what's our wrap up? Who'd we each go? I went Scales, Mays, Shmee, Bryson, and RO, and Wes were my picks.
Did you write this down?
No, I'm just looking at the app.
Okay.
I think I remembered who I liked in each one.
Yeah, I went Wes, you, Shmee, RO, Mays, and I'm leaning me against Bryson, but I think it's going to be a tough matchup. So, yeah, we'll see how we do. Other than that, I think that's our. Thanks for tuning in to our weekly episode preview. This is, as a reminder, this was part 2 of we did first part 1 was where we kind of looked at last week's matchups, and I think going forward we may keep them as separate parts, or we may combine them into one. People, let us know what you think. Leave your comments in the group me, or DM Jerry or I, and going forward we'll Bryson may also be joining going forward. Hit us with some data. I know people like to see where, historical matchups and power index and tracking against team paradox and some of that kind of stuff. And so going forward, maybe we can get Bryson's expertise, and because we've missed him.
We do. I think my internet went out for like 3 or 4 of those points, but we're happy football's back. This was really fun just to go through the league and the matchups, talk about both fantasy and some of the stuff going on in the NFL. So great recap. Hopefully people watch this. If they don't, it was still fun, and we'll keep doing it and maybe get Bryson involved. So have a good weekend, CT. I'll see you Sunday.
All right, Jerry. Take care, man.
See ya.
See ya.